Have you ever wondered what it was like to experience the magic that happens when the imaginary people in your head become real to other people? I have. I'm Maddie Margarita, and this is Character Floss. Our special guest today is Lisa Unger. Lisa is the New York Times and internationally bestselling author with books published in 30 languages and millions of copies sold worldwide. She is widely regarded, this is my favorite sentence of your bio, she's widely regarded as a master of suspense. And we are here talking today about her latest novel, Last Girl Ghosted. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Maddie. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, welcome. Well, we're hoping that your Labradoodle makes an appearance at some point during our talk. So
he definitely will. He's over on he usually just kind of jumps up on the couch behind me at a certain point. That's kind of his.
Oh, that's good. And snuggles in. Well, I hope everybody will snuggle in and listen to our discussion of the brilliant book that you wrote. I read it, and we were talking a few minutes before. I really loved the book. Some books you read, this book you experience. So that's enough about what I'm saying about it. Do you want to talk a little bit about what we can talk about? I don't want to give anything away because it is so layered, but.
Absolutely. So yeah, when we first open the cover of Last Girl Ghosted, we meet Ren. And Ren is an advice columnist. And, she comes from this really dark past, but she's sort of found her way into the light, and she's built a life for herself that she loves. And she has work that is meaningful to her. And she has friends that, is like especially her very close friend, Jax, was like the family that she's chosen. And, but her friend Jax kind of feels like, you're lonely, maybe you could meet someone. And she pushes Ren into the world of online dating, and Ren kind of reluctantly enters this zone. And she has a couple of very underwhelming encounters. And then she meets Adam. And when she meets Adam, she falls for him hard. And they have this sort of white hot romance. They kind of discover New York City again, where she's lived for a long time, but now it all seems new. And they're just, they're foodies, and they're both big readers, and they both love Rilke. And she thinks that this guy is the one. And so after a particularly romantic evening, he makes a request. He says, "Tell me something that you've never told anyone." And she does. And then the next day, Adam disappears. His social media profiles have been deleted. His cell phone is disconnected. And the place where she thought he lived is just a vacation rental. And so when a private detective shows up on Ren's doorsteps and tells her that there are other women who thought they were in love with Adam, and all those women have disappeared, Ren decides that she needs answers, that she's not just going to be able to kind of, lick her wounds and move on and just be glad worse things didn't happen from this man that she thought that she knew. So she decides to follow his dark digital trail into his past and into her own. And that's Last Girl Ghosted.
It was so interesting. I hope I'm not being revealing too much about myself, but I mean, I think most women can relate to this, most people, because this isn't just a power that men have over women. Women have a similar power over men, depending on the person. When you meet somebody and you have that, like you said, that intensity that is just, it burns so brightly, and it skips through everything. And then to have that ripped away, like that, and to have it disappear and not know what happened is crazy. But most women, berate themselves and wonder whatever. But Ren, even before the detective shows up, she's not having any of Adam disappearing on her. She really starts not
right.
Yeah. So what was it about that experience in your mind that made her go above and beyond and didn't just say, "Oh, okay, there's another one that ghosted me"? What was it? Was it the experience? Was it the person? What was it that caused her to break out of her?
I mean, what I think is the reason she chased him, and maybe she has other reasons that I'm not that I'm not privy to. But I think the reason that she chased him is that she comes from this really dark past, and it's like a piece of herself that she hid. She hides from everyone. You know, she says in the book, oh, we reveal ourselves in layers to people as we get to know them. And that's really true. You know, we sort of, as we fall in love with somebody, we reveal ourselves slowly, peel back the layers, and then hope that when the core is finally revealed, that that it's enough, that it's good enough, right? That you could still be loved. And so she, after all these years of, being kind of in a cocoon, she's got this advice column. She uses this podcast and her, the column that she has in the newspaper. It's not like, it's not like an etiquette column or like necessarily like, it's not a light advice column. It's like, I will help you find your way through the darkness kind of a column. Like she comes from trauma and she wants to help other people get over trauma. But in a lot of ways, she's created like a kind of a cocoon around herself. And, she's maybe used it a little bit to just not deal with the fact that she has this sort of dark thing in her past that she's kind of essentially buried. She has secrets and lies and layers to her that are not going to be easily revealed. And so I feel like, she hadn't trusted anybody in such a long time. And then she gave him this thing, she gave him this piece of herself that she had hidden and hadn't told anyone. And she gives it to him because, like, in that moment, she says, if I don't give it to you now, then I'm hiding it, and it's a lie. Then it's a lie. And she doesn't want to lie. She wants to be true. And so she gives this thing to him, and then he disappears. And I think to her, it almost feels like he stole something from her. He took something, and she wants it back. Of course, she can't get it back, but she wants it back.
Well, and I think Ren is such an interesting character. I really love her, but I am obsessed with Adam. And the fact that, I'm obsessed with him as a character, and I'm obsessed with his power of intuition and instinct, and how, like you mentioned before, that Ren is not the only person that he's connected with, the only woman that he's connected with on that level. And it really is intoxicating to have somebody see you and just be totally overwhelmed by your presence and not see anything else, and to see things about you that other people don't know, and to feel like they're looking right into your soul, and that you relate to this person. And I think, even though this is an interesting experience and not everybody's been pursued by a serial person, we're not even going to call him a serial person, because I don't want to give anything away.
Let's just say he's definitely got some challenges.
A sociopath. Let's say everybody's been.
Let's just say he's a sociopath, because of course he is.
Right. So, but not everybody's had that experience that Ren has. But she's so relatable on so many levels. Like I said, people have walked away from other people after one night or a weekend or a week. So people know what that feels like, and to hide so many things and to have secrets and things like that. That's also relatable. So I think that was great. But let's talk about Adam. Let's talk about the creating. And
great. I'm worried that you're so involved with Adam.
I know. I'm going right down that pathway. Oh, there's such pathology in this. I just don't want to talk about it. But when you did you create Ren first or Adam? And who was created for who?
That's a really interesting question. Well, it was Ren's voice that I heard first. So there's always one voice, an initial voice. There eventually may be many voices. But there's always one voice initially that brings me into the book, and that was Ren. And so I didn't really know that much about her when she showed up on the page. I never do. Usually things start with a germ. In this case, it was a conversation with a young friend about online dating. And then it led me to be really curious about this, not so much about online dating, but about how this technology was kind of rewriting this ancient pursuit, this kind of search for a mate. So that's kind of really what got me fascinated and started doing all this research. And then I hear it, the best way I can describe it is if it connects with something deeper going on with me. then I hear a voice. And in this case, it was Ren. So she came first. And I was interested in also, when I started writing this book, I was interested in something that we just touched on, which is the predator-prey relationship. So there, so Adam is he's the perfect predator. You have to be charming. You have to have that, what you were saying, that attention, that intuition, that, that ability to see what other people don't see, right? You have to have that in order to be an effective predator. Like, if somebody showed up at your doorstep and they were like, all crazed with a knife, you would go run it. Most people have enough self-preservation, they don't hate themselves enough to just, go with that guy.
Right.
You've got to be lured, you've got to be lured in. And so in that way, he's kind of like the perfect predator. He sees, and he has this really interesting playing field. So I've always been very interested in the concept of the sweetheart scam, which this is not about the sweetheart scam, but this is like this incredibly common scam where you meet somebody online and you think you're in love, and you have a relationship, an online relationship with the person. And then, suddenly there's some problem. There's been an accident. They're trapped in a foreign country and they ask for money, and you give it to them because, of course, you trust this person now who you've had this relationship with. And, you would think, right, that nobody would ever fall for that because everybody knows what it is. Nobody's going to fall for that. So many people do. And smart people, compassionate people, rule followers, people who are all good, generous spirits, like they fall for this thing again and again. So I was kind of interested in that. And like, how does that person who's out there looking for that vulnerable person, how do they do it? What do they see in their prey that, that attracts them? Because they do see something. And so he's got all these like little lures that he puts out there. Like his profile is basically like the unprofile. That's what they joke about. Like, it's a bad picture of him. And he's like, his like, one of his favorite things is solitude, like he reads Rilke, he's dark and brooding. So there's a very specific type of woman, I think, that would be drawn to him. And so and when I first saw Adam, I saw him in my mind when he came to the bar, which is where Ren meets him for the first time. Like, I didn't really know about his profiles or who he was at that time. When he showed up at the bar, he was just this like, incredibly virile, not necessarily handsome, but very attractive man. And he was dark and tall and brooding and had some kind of really just direct energy. Like, hey, why did you pick this place? Let's get out of here.
Right. And I remember him saying, this isn't the kind of place you usually go to.
Right.
And right away he like zeroes in and she's like, how does he know that? Exactly. The book had a very primal feel to me. Maybe it was kind of that prepping environment that she grew up in, and that he is, it's very back to nature, very raw. Maybe that's a better word for that environment.
I definitely felt that energy as well. And I also, my friend Carolyn Kepnes, who wrote You, which we all probably know from the adaptation as well to Netflix or whatever. We talked about, when we did an interview just recently, we talked about her character, Joe Goldberg, and I was like, I was saying to her during that conversation, I was like, I am like a little bit, upset, like that I'm so involved with him. Right. Like, like I'm so involved with this voice. I mean, here's this, just really brutal killer. And she was saying how, what's so great about Joe is that he really pays attention.
Oh God, what does that say about modern times? Right. I know.
He's all in, you know what I mean?
It's true.
Like he's all in. And so I guess it's like, I guess that's probably why you're attracted to Adam, because he is all in on Ren. And even after he's gone, he's still doing, what they call in, all my colorful, like sort of lexicon of online dating terms that I research, is like, he's basically breadcrumbing her, right? Even after he's gone, he's sending these little missives. He's like essentially luring her with this trail of breadcrumbs away from the safety net of her life. And she thinks she's hunting him. Which is so brilliant, because a lot of, you can read a lot of suspense novels where people are taken against their will, right?
And they struggle against that. They struggle against that person. But this book is scarier because she knows that she's on some level. She knows that she's
complicit,
right? That he's pulling her in, or that she's being pulled in, or allowing herself. So it's almost as if she surrendered her power to a certain extent, and that's scary. Even though she's smart and educated and she knows, but some people have this ability to do that, and that was for me. I mean, to a certain extent, she didn't totally surrender.
But it is a form of self-destruction. It's a self-destructive behavior that we do see, and we see it a lot in very intelligent women who otherwise make very, very smart choices about their lives. And then in this one area, they seem to be like, they're looking for chaos, or they're looking for drama, or they're looking for pain, and that very often you find people who behave that way come from trauma. Because they've learned, and this is certainly true for Ren, she comes from trauma, and there's always going to be a part of her that thinks that pain is love, that thinks that darkness is appealing, because that's where she came from. And that's what she was forced to reckon with in her childhood. And so and we don't even know that about ourselves. We would be surprised to learn that about ourselves, I think. But it's fairly common.
But I know, I wish I could talk to you for hours about this. And I know that's scary, because you probably think I'm a stalker.
Yeah.
Which based on the book is a little creepy too. But the way the book is written, the style that the book is written is so intimate. Like she's talking to him.
Yeah.
And so you feel that how focused she is on him, and that they are, even when she's hiding and running away and through this whole thing, that they are connected.
Yes. And that is, that's one of the first things. So most things are not really, for me, oddly, they're not really a choice. Like, I don't choose to write first person present tense. I don't choose to write third person omniscient. Like, it's not something that I go, well, I'm going to write a book about X, and then I'm going to write it this way. I hear it, and if I had to change it, I wouldn't be able to. Like, if I suddenly was like, this is not working, I need to write Ren from a different perspective, like, I could not do it. Like, it just wouldn't work. And so for the fact that she was talking to him was one of the first things that I noticed about her, that she was talking to him after he had gone. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting, because first of all, they haven't been together that long. It's not like you've been married for 20 or 30 years and your husband is gone and you're used to having an ongoing conversation about life with your husband. And so I could see why at that point somebody might be still speaking to your, lost love or whatever it was. But like in this case, she feels that they've been together for such a long time. It's really only been 3 months. And she hasn't committed or been in love with anybody else in all her adult life. And so this is her, in a lot of ways, this is her first love. So she's got that kind of teen first love angst thing going on, but she's, an older woman near her 30s. And so she's got all these kinds of, little things about her that I was noticing on the page. And that was one of them. And I was like, wow, is she unstable to have attached so deeply to him that she's talking to him in this way? And so that was like one of the first things I knew about her in the writing of her. And I just kind of went with it, because I don't have any choice.
It was great. It was wonderful. And so what was your favorite thing about writing this book? Or about this book itself? I mean, you've written so many other great books, Confessions on the 745. I love the beginning, love the setup. What was different about this book? What was your favorite thing about this book?
I think the thing that I love the most about this book, and it's always really hard to pick because it is kind of it's a marriage, it's a relationship, like everything about it is meaningful to me in some way. But I think what I love the most about this book was her connection to nature, and how she had this deep connection to this land that she hates, in a place that she's fled, that she's changed her entire identity in order to move on from that. And, she's ensconced herself like in the urban jungle, like she's living in Brooklyn, she's restoring a townhome, she's like fully ensconced in that New Yorker, like urban thing.
Podcasting.
She's podcasting, she's fully modern, she's like she's the full modern girl. Her relationship with Jax, who's like kind of a woman up, tough love, also blogger, podcaster, full on social media, just, he's spamming me, I met this guy on Instagram, blah, 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 right? Like, so there's this really like techie modern feature to the book. And then there's Robin, who is like her draw back to this wild place where she grew up, and where such terrible things happened, and where terrible things happened to her family, and where she did terrible things. And yet there's a beauty and a wildness to that space in her life that she's always drawn back to it. She always feels the tug back to the place where, her father was very unstable and a doomsday prepper and a collapsist, which means that, he thought that the world had already ended and that humanity just hadn't figured it out yet.
That's an interesting distinction.
Which may or may not be true.
Yeah.
And yet she feels this very, powerful pull back to that place, and the skills that she learned there are the skills that she will rely on later in the book. And that her father, she found pieces of her father in that wild place that she probably wouldn't have found anyplace else. She found a way to love a certain sliver of who he was, even though he did terrible things.
I think, at its core, this is a family novel. It is. It's a story about her and her relationship with her entire family. And, she found her power at a very early age and paid for it for the rest of her life. So, it was really, there's tragedy in here. There is some degree, humor. It's not all dark. But it is so relatable. And I love the names. What I thought, oh my God. And because I do read so much, and I do look for things that aren't there. This whole thing has me sounding really unstable too. But the name, Adam, the first man, I was like, that is an amazing choice. Was that a conscious choice, or is that a coincidental choice? Because that was perfect for him.
He, all my characters just come with their name.
That was perfect.
And like, to the degree that, like, again, the same way, like if I have to change it, I can't, like I mean, sometimes I have had to change names for a variety of different reasons. And like, there's been no choice but to go back and do a global change in the document, which is always terrifying. It's always a terrifying thing to do. But worse than that, like the character never stops being the character that it was for me in the writing. So then when I'm talking about it like a year later, like I might altogether forget like what the new name of the character is. Like that's not my name. That's not the story or how it revealed itself to me. So I have to like go, oh, right. Yeah, no, that's the name now.
So you have Adam, you have Robin, you have Ren.
Yes.
They all are so perfectly symbolic of who they are and what they represent.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Robin's hope and I mean, even though it was just such a great book. And as I said, I think people can read this and experience on it on so many levels. And it definitely is the kind of book that you read it once and then you want to read it again. And it could be a totally different experience.
Thank you.
So I'm just curious, what is it that you hope that people will feel when they read the book? When they read the last page and they close the book, what is it that you hope that they'll feel about the book?
I hope they get that. I hope they get that goosebumpy feeling that I get, or that I got, especially with this book, and that I get in other, other books. Like there's like this goosebumpy feeling at the end that you're like, okay, that's it, right? Like that's all of it, like that's the entirety of the story. And I think that, it is a thriller, of course. And then at the at a recent book event, a friend of mine was like, I think it's also a love story. And I was like, oh, and I was like, well, yeah, okay, maybe you're right. It is, I guess, on some level, a love story. And then I think like sort of one of the big themes, like the heart of the book is that, Ren comes from this place and from this person who thought that the world had ended or was ending, or that the world was in chaos, the world's on fire, it's madness. And his answer to that was, to leave, that you leave, you take what's yours and you move it someplace where you can survive. And Ren doesn't want to make that choice. She is willing to admit that maybe the world is ending, or maybe things are too far gone, or it's on fire, but that, you stay, you don't get to go, you stay and fight for the people that you love and for what is. And so I feel like that thread is probably the thing that I hope, people most walk away from it holding.
I love that. And I also love the forgiveness, the healing. You see her on this journey and she is transformed at the end and does surprising things. Yes. So even at the end, there are surprising things. So everybody's going to want to stick with it through the whole book, but they're definitely going to want to stick through it for the ending. Because I did not see that coming. So I appreciate that. It was a great experience. What are you working on a new book now? I know you're busy promoting Last Girl Ghosted, but are you writing now or?
I am. I'm always writing. Well, I just a couple weeks ago wrote the end on my 20th novel, which is, kind of felt like a big deal. It did. It felt like a big deal. And so that was I never talk about the book until it's ready to go out into the world. Once it's like ready to go to galley, then I'm ready to talk about it. But I'm already at work on the book that comes after that one. So that would be the 2023 book. That's what I'm just starting to work on now.
And you're releasing this book into the pandemic. How fun for you?
Yeah, I mean, this is my second pandemic release. This is my
so this is even a different experience from your first pandemic release.
It is. It's all new. Like last year we were just, like sometime in March 2020, I pivoted to move online. And as you can see me sitting here with my bookshelves behind me in my office, this is where I have been since March 2020, pretty much. And so the Confessions on the 745 release was full virtual. Which in many ways was absolutely fantastic. I was able to connect with people that would never have been able to come to a book signing. But my fan base is all over the world. And so people, my book events were attended by people from all over the world. And so that was really kind of nice. And I heard from readers saying that like, wow, I've been reading you for 20 years. And I have never been able to come into a book signing before because you don't come to my town or for whatever reason. And so finally I was able to connect with those folks, and that was pretty nice. And then this year it's been more of a hybrid. So I actually have had 2 live events here in Florida. I had one at my local St. Pete Indie, Tombolo Books, and one at my local Tampa Indie, Oxford Exchange. And they were live in-person events, but we also were able to broadcast them. Tombolo was on Facebook, and Oxford Exchange was on Instagram Live. And so and then the rest of it has been, all virtual. So Yeah. It's been
Does that, is it a letdown not to get all that feedback from people? I mean, you spent all the time writing the book is that something
There's
that,
nonstop feedback.
maybe more feedback than you ever wanted to have?
It's not a shortage of feedback, let's be clear. But what was really not, what I did not realize that I missed was like just the physical touching of people.
Yeah.
You know, the hugging, the physical signing of the book, which, you know, like the last couple of years, the books have come to me. I'd be getting like boxes and boxes of books from places like Poison Pen or, you know, Mysterious Bookshop in New York City. And so they come to me and I sign and box them up, send them back out. So I did have that, but like being in the store with the line, signing, talking to people, like I did not realize how much I missed that because I am an introvert. Most writers are. So I was like, I didn't know how great it was going to feel to be out there, you know, and like have that, you know,
Energy.
that immediate, and it's like, right, like by feedback, like that immediate energetic exchange. And I was surprised that, you know, how much I did miss that. So when it came back, it was nice, really nice.
Well, I'm hoping everybody who can will buy your book. I can recommend it 100%. I don't usually do that, but I do. I really loved it. It's a full experience of everything. When you say genre, there's a little bit of everything in there for anybody. So I would buy it. If you can't buy the book, it'll be in libraries, I'm sure. Please review it. If you do borrow it from your friends, it's okay that you didn't buy it, but at least review it.
Yeah, or post about it on social media if you liked it.
Yeah, exactly. And we appreciate it. Well, I appreciate your time so much, Lisa. I wish you best of luck on the book.
Thank you, Maddie.
I hope we'll get to meet in person and talk again soon. I appreciate it.
I would love that. I'll look forward to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.